Hello friends, my name's James, and this is my 1965 Albert 30 sloop SV Tritea. I have been slowly sailing around the world since leaving Los Angeles in 2021. Since that time, I've covered more than 17,000 nautical miles, from the Hawaiian Islands to French Polynesia, New Zealand to Australia, and more. I crossed the largest ocean on the planet solo. Join me as I continue my way through Southeast Asia, exploring its jungles, seeing its wildlife, and experiencing cultures far different from my own. This is the magic of seeing the world by sail. Good morning from an unnamed anchorage in Borneo, if you could even call this an anchorage. I mean, other people have anchored here for the same reason I did, as a place to sleep before heading towards the river. We're we're 2.5 miles from the shore, but these waters are so crazy shallow through this whole area. I probably got in closer last night, but it was a very sound sleep last night. Perfect for what I needed. I slept hard for 7 hours, and it did the trick. Now we need to haul up and drive another 5 hours to the mouth of the river. I'm going to tuck in. There's another anchorage. It's like 30 miles to the mouth of the river, and then still another 10 miles or so up the river. So Tritea doesn't motor that fast, and I'm not in that big of a hurry, so I'm not going to motor all the way to the village today. I'm just going to get up into more protected waters than this. Lots of squalls happening. Woke up to storms this morning, so we'll see. It might be a very wet day, but let's get underway. Good morning from Tanjung Kulang, I think. I'm reading a sign on the beach. I think that's the name of this national park and this area. I've been in this anchorage a few days now. Super peaceful. Uninhabited, so there's no mosques, so there's no call to prayers early in the morning, or no people. Just really quiet, nice spot. Had a pretty rough passage over here from the Cape. Unpredicted 15 to 17 knots of wind. The forecast models said it was going to be blowing 0 to 3 knots. It was 15 to 17 the whole day. Mostly favorable, except for like a couple hours it was on the nose, but otherwise it was good sailing. Which was good because I'm having like serious issues with the engine starting again. The issue really started when I went to start the engine as I approached Borneo. Had a real hard time getting the engine started. And then same the next morning when I hauled up from that very unprotected anchorage. I landed out in the night and made passage to here, and then the engine alarm sounded a couple times, but when I was I think what happens, and it's happened to me in the past, if I'm motor sailing and the winds come up and the boat's sailing faster than the motor is assisting, and then the engine's running at like 2,500 RPM with no load on it, it tends to overheat. It's done to me several times in the past. And that's what happened on that. So the engine alarm started going off. It also happened as I was approaching the Cape that night for the same reason, I believe. So that was a concern. But it ran to get me here. It seems to do okay when it's running, but it was doing this weird fluctuating thing when I was trying to come around this cape, or come around this point the other day. I don't know, this engine is such a nightmare. Anyway, yesterday, I changed the fan belt. Well, I took the water pump off, checked the impeller to make sure that's why it wasn't overheating. Impeller's fine. Changed the fan belt and adjusted the tensions and everything. And still the engine was very, very, very difficult. Even with starter fluid and everything, it took me a long time to get it started yesterday. So, that's a big concern. Huge concern. That I'm losing sleep over at this point. I have to extend my visa, which expires next Wednesday. Normally, before, you could do it all online. You extend it, you pay online. Well, now they don't let you pay online. You have to go into an office to pay. Luckily, just up the river, 10 miles where we're going anyway, there's an office, or a bank or ATM. There's a bunch of different options, but you have to do it in person now for some reason. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. Today I'm going to just rest, try to recuperate a bit from the passage and all this stress. And tomorrow we're going to try to get the engine started and head upriver and be up there for a few days, get my visa dealt with. That'll give me 30 more days in Indonesia, and then go from there. My biggest concern with the engine is there's decent sailing out of the river, obviously. There's decent sailing winds because the trades have come back, mostly up through almost to Singapore. It seems spotty, but I could possibly sail most of that way. I could put the dinghy on the hip with the outboard, but my big concern is that passage from Indonesia to Singapore. And it's only like 6 miles across, but it's one of the busiest shipping lanes in the entire world with cargo ships. So that's my huge concern. Once I get to Malaysia, I can get into a marina and get everything sorted. Whether I figure out what's happening with the inboard or I get a mount for the outboard for the stern, I just got to get to Malaysia. But getting to Malaysia is the tricky part. Stressful, very stressful. At this point, I guess I'll try to figure out how to repower Tritea in Malaysia if I can find like a good delivery, like an ocean delivery, delivering a yacht that pays like the appropriate rate, which is about $10,000 to $12,000 for the skipper's pay for delivering a yacht across an ocean. That's the angle I'm kind of thinking about, trying to find like a big delivery to help fund the new engine. I'd put in a Beta Marine. I was planning on hauling out in Malaysia anyway to do like a mini refit. I need to redo the bottom. I need to get the boat ready for the Indian Ocean next year, so that was already on schedule. I could always just like get a new outboard, like a long shaft outboard, and mount it astern if I have to, but that means carrying explosive gasoline in, fair quantities on board, which I'm not keen on doing, but worst comes to worst, that's what I'll do. But the immediate concern is like getting to Malaysia. So that's where I'm at. Super stressful. I feel like a broken record too, this engine. And I can't rebuild this engine again because it's been rebuilt 2.5 times. So I bought it rebuilt, and then I had it rebuilt in New Zealand and got screwed over, and then I had to have the head rebuilt again last year in Australia, just over a year ago. And I know all that work was done perfectly, so it had nothing to do with the Australia part. Dave did an amazing job, taught me a ton. So not fun, but so we'll see. There's options, but the immediate is to get up the river tomorrow with the tide and get anchored upriver, deal with the immigration thing, go see some orangutans, and go from there. Okay, I just hurriedly got the outboard on. I put the dinghy in the water yesterday, rigging it up to kind of get the lines set where they need to be if I need to put the dinghy on the hip in case the diesel engine doesn't work up the river today, so I can get it out of the way of ships, the way I've done in the past with engine trouble. But there's a big storm possibly gonna hit us. The wind looks like it won't, but a lot of thunder and sounds very close. And I'd rather have put that outboard on when the dinghy was dry rather than rain, slippery and rainy. The plan is to leave this anchorage at 9 a.m. with the rising tide. Should help us get upriver and not fight the current as much. I think it's 6:30 a.m. right now. So that's the plan. Hopefully the storms pass before we go to head upriver. Stressful, but it is what it is. There are also these giant islands of plant debris that move up and down the river. And I saw one yesterday coming out of the river that was probably 2/3 the size of Tritea. It was huge. And there's one now just at the mouth of the anchorage. We'll see if it comes over near the boat. But I read when you're upriver, you have to keep an eye on them, because if they hit your anchor, they can drag your whole boat. They can make you drag anchor and push your boat downriver. So you have to fend them off of your anchor chain and off of your boat. So yeah, it's gonna be wild to see those, but I'll see if I can show you these. I don't know if it'll show up on GoPro. Okay, here we go. Super stressful. Hopefully it starts and gets us upriver. That was very good. always like one step forward, two steps back. Engine started perfect, but the autopilot doesn't work, so I'll be hand steering for the next 10 miles upriver. Just fine. Hopefully I can fix it once I get to the next anchorage. Time to haul up. We have 9 feet under the keel. Just not unusual for this zone. Some crazy sound just came from the engine and it died. So now I'm gonna drop anchor. Well, we're in 33 feet of water. Bummer. I just put out 2 scope, so 60 feet just to hold us in place. I'll start a track to make sure we're not dragging downriver on avionics. But the engine feels really hot, so maybe it burned all its oil or something, I'm not sure. It had plenty of oil when we started. I checked the oil before I left, so we'll see. All right, I just checked the oil. The oil was okay. I added a little bit, but it had more than half full of oil. I checked the coolant. Coolant's okay. I know the impeller's okay, but the engine is crazy hot. So I'm gonna let it cool down, and then I'm gonna leave all the steps and everything off so it can get air. And we'll see. Maybe it's just that this water's so hot and the environment's so hot, it's like 87 degrees, that with the engine bay all buttoned up, that it was overheating. I don't know what else to consider, but I've popped it off, opened up the whole engine bay, and poured water on the engine to try to start cooling it down, and I'll wait about 20 minutes. I did restart it. It restarted fine, so no kind of catastrophic failure that I know of. It restarted, but I want to let it cool down a little bit. We're only 4 miles from the anchorage, so oh, so stressful. I was just starting to relax and be stoked that I'm like in a river in Borneo. And like as soon as I had the happy thought, the engine went bop, bop. But luckily the river's shallow. It's funny because this is the deepest I've seen. It was 30 feet, and of course that's where we had to drop the anchor, but I only put out 60 feet, so it's fine. So yeah, well, see how it goes. All we gotta do is like try to creep up the river. We have about 2 hours until the tide switches, and then we'll have like current and tide against us, so we want to get that last 4 miles in the next 2 hours. Just saw something on the water. It might have been a crocodile. Okay, we made it. The main sort of spot that all the cruisers anchor at is like right where this, it's too close to this ship. There's an anchor spot here as well. We're in 30 feet of water. I'm gonna put out 5 scope. Pretty mellow current because the tide's coming in, so it's neutralizing that river current. But we're gonna get the, and it's mud, so you don't want to like overdo it when you set the hook, otherwise you'll just keep sliding. So we're gonna let it sink a little bit and then pay it a little bit more scope, and we're set. Oh, we made it. Woo! Yachting is stressful sometimes. We made it. I already had some dudes come by and try to sell me a tour to the orangutan sanctuary, which is the whole reason I came up this river to do this. But they didn't even let me get my anchor down. Started trying to sell me a tour. I'm excited to do that tour though. Very excited to see orangutans and go in the jungle. So we got anchored. All's well on the good ship Tritea. Now it's time for me to make lunch.
If you enjoy the content on this channel and would like to contribute, you can consider joining the Patreon crew. Thanks for watching. Fair winds until next time.